you were involved with Divergent for so long in the Divergent world.
Yeah.
So what was it like creating a whole new world after being so involved in that, including the movies?
Well, it was really exciting, I think, because when you write dystopian, it kind of has to find its foundation in our world, and it has to, like, kind of make a certain amount of sense. I mean, definitely Divergent is, like, kind of dystopian fantasy. It's not, like, a warning that we're going to split into 5 factions in the future or
Yeah.
anything like that. But, there was still, like, it had to, like, be grounded in our reality. So when crafting the world of Carve the Mark, I got to be like completely free. It was like everything was my sandbox and I could just make it whatever I wanted it to be. And that freedom was like really joyful. So it was really challenging, because the world still has to make sense inside itself. It has to obey its own rules. And it has to like be complicated and interesting like a real world would be. So that was hard, but mostly I found it to be the good kind of hard.
Yeah. That's great. What was the process or inspiration for your unique character names that you came up with for the novel?
Well, oh man, I feel like I'm torturing people with these character names a little bit. I feel bad about that. But so I decided I wanted to create like a new kind of language, and language, of course, like influences character names. So originally when I wrote the rough draft, I put all of the character names in Hungarian. And the reason for that is that after I got married, for the first 5 months of my marriage, I lived in Romania with my husband because some of his family lives over there. And we encountered a lot of Hungarian people at that time. And it was the most different sounding language I'd encountered because mostly I'd heard a lot of Romance languages, and Hungarian is not a Romance language. And it has a lot of complicated rules, and they tell you that it's the language of heaven because it takes an eternity to learn, which I think is really funny. Anyway, I didn't want to use their language because to them, the impression that I got from the people we met there is that Hungarian is really dear to them. So the last thing I wanted to do was take it and use it because I really have no right to do that. And so in the revisions, I took out all of those Hungarian names, but I kept a couple of the sounds that I most loved from Hungarian and then started to craft these syllables, like a long list of syllables, and I used a constructed language generator, which is a thing that exists on the internet that I didn't know about. And then I started putting them together, and I tried to keep the names relatively short and simple so that they wouldn't be too terrible to pronounce. But that's kind of where at least the Shotet language came from. Thuvazit is a little bit different, but I kind of used the same process.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really interesting.
Sorry, it was kind of a long, like a long process.
Oh, no, that's great, though. So you have the Shotet people as somewhat more aggressive in nature, while the Thuve are considered like more peace-loving, correct?
That's kind of debatable. So that's certainly how it seems when the book starts. So Akos grows up with the Thuvazit people, and so he hears about the Shotet being a particular way. When he's among them, he kind of discovers it's not quite that way. They actually have a very rich history, complicated history together, in which, like, for a long time, the Thuvazit were the aggressors. So, it gets more complicated as it goes, I would say.
So, well, what was your inspiration then for these two nations? I'm guessing maybe Hungarian was part of it, or
well, maybe a little bit. I mean, there were definitely things I really admired about Romania when we were there. Like, they are still recovering from kind of like a terrible period in their history under Ceausescu, and so they've had to be really resourceful with kind of limited resources, and that's something I wanted to reflect in Shotet culture. And my husband is like a lover of small objects and ordinary objects, and so I kind of brought that into the story too. The Shotet repurpose objects that other people have discarded, and they find new purposes for them, and kind of give them new life, and that's something I think is really beautiful, and so I kind of like put that into the story. One thing that was important to me was making sure that both of these cultures had like a wide range of people appearance-wise. So it's important because I think you can get into some really harmful stereotypes when when you're creating like cultural groups in sci-fi and fantasy. You kind of see that in like Lord of the Rings, which I love,
Yeah.
but it does have like its problems. Like Lord of the Rings, the elves are pale and beautiful and good,
Yeah.
and the orcs are dark-skinned and inhuman and violent, and that's not so great. Like that's contributing to
Yeah.
some problematic stuff. So I wanted to make sure that both Thuva and Shotet, which they do share this history, that they were both like diverse to us. They don't think of it the same way we do because they don't have the same like racial constructs that we do. But even within families, like Syra has darker skin, her brother Rizek is described as pale as a corpse. So, I wanted to create that kind of internal diversity so that it was clear that the whole galaxy, was a lot different than what we encounter here, to kind of like defamiliarize it for us. It was an important part of the world building for me.
That is cool. I'm sorry. In this universe, then people possess current gifts. What kind of current gifts are you looking for people to read about?
Well, I kind of love the current gifts, and I love people with powers. That's like one of my favorite tropes of ever.
Yeah.
So I did want to use it, but I wanted to twist it just a little bit in that each current gift has a corresponding curse. So Akos' sister Cece has the ability to like set people at ease, but she can't make them uneasy, not on purpose. And so she can't cry in front of people. She can't express herself completely. She's being strangled by her current gift. And Syra is the same way. She suffers from pain from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. Yeah. She can also like inflict it on other people. And that's like kind of dubiously a power. Is that a good? That's not a good thing, but it is powerful. And so I wanted to make sure that tension like kept existing in each character, no matter what their current gift was. So that's kind of what I'm excited for people to see. It's like how the current gifts can empower a character, but also limit them and challenge them.
Oh, yeah, that is different. Have you taken that Epic Reads quiz to find out what current gift you have?
Yeah, mine is that I repel all other current gifts. I think I tweeted like, "Why can't I throw fire?" Did you take it?
Yeah, I got able to. What was it? Something about a calming ability.
Oh yeah, that's Cece. Hey, nice.
Yeah. So let me ask you. Changed the writing style a bit in this book. For Divergent and Insurgent, you mostly went with the first-person narrative. From one character. In Allegiant was a two-person one, but it was still a first-person narrative. In Carve the Mark, you created a dual narrative, but one of them is only in first person.
Right.
So why did you decide to do that?
Well, while I was editing, so I was always having trouble with Akos. I don't know why. It wasn't that he was bad. It's just that I couldn't like connect with him, and I think that was clear when you read it. And my editor pointed it out, and she suggested I try it in third person just to see how it would go. And it turned out it worked really well. And I think part of that is because Akos is incredibly guarded and wary, and he's often described that way. And his current gift is kind of to push other people out, like other people's gifts out. And I think there's something about him, it just doesn't want to let you in all the way. And so third person narration kind of lets that happen. Like it creates a little space between you and the story. And so it seemed like the way he would talk to a reader, I guess.
Okay. That's going to be interesting. Okay, and my last question, I guess, is for some of the readers who pre-ordered the book, they're going to get an exclusive short story, which is the epilogue to the Divergent trilogy, which I love. So I wanted to ask why you decided to write an epilogue 3 years after Allegiant was published.
I know. Okay, so after I finished Allegiant, I was pretty sure that was it. Like, this is the end of the story. I feel like I've tied up all the loose ends. Like, I feel comfortable with the way this has ended. And then over time, I started to feel like I did actually leave, like, one knot untied, I guess. And what kind of encouraged that is that I get people asking me questions all the time, especially in, like, the signing line at events. And like most of the questions were like, is Tobias okay now? And I was like, oh man, I guess I really did leave this unresolved. So I wrote the like epilogue for myself mostly. I wasn't sure I'd do anything with it, but I was like, let's just see if you really feel like this needs to be explored. And then when my publisher wanted to offer a gift to people who pre-ordered Carve the Mark, because, you know, people who pre-order tend to be ones who already have supported you in the past, so it's nice to like offer them something in return. I was like, well, I have this thing. Do you want to read it? And that's kind of how it was born.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Veronica, for all your time. And I definitely pre-ordered the book myself, so I'm looking forward to reading it soon.
Awesome. Well, I hope you like it.
Yeah, thank you. And congratulations on the book birthday.
Thanks, and have a good day.
You too.